Well, the current volatility in the stock market has given President Trump his first experience with rattled nerves among investors. But the administration is downplaying the turmoil, saying the economy's fundamentals are strong and will only get stronger as the effects of tax reform take hold. Let's take a closer look at all of this with David Sampson, former Commerce Department Deputy Secretary under George W. Bush. He's also president of the Property Casualties Insurers Association of America. Good morning.
Good morning, Cheryl.
Some of the reasons that we've seen kind of this volatility in the market and the nervousness is, look, yes, the threat of higher interest rates. We've seen all the action on the 10-year Treasury, and certainly there is concern about inflation ticking too high, and that could be an economic negative. Do you see that concern?
Well, trying to explain, we might have better luck trying to explain the NFL's catch rule than trying to explain what's going on in the marketplace today and the stock markets. But the reality is all of those factors are built in. Your previous guest talked about the unprecedented run-up. From my perspective, looking at the economy from a macro perspective, I think the fundamentals are pretty good. And of all the CEOs that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of them around the country, I think they are pretty optimistic about 2018 in terms of economic growth. We've been experiencing 8 years of wage stagflation in the previous administration, and now that we're seeing the first signs that wages are really growing on a real term basis, sure. I think there's a little panic. I think it may be a bit overreached.
Yeah, well, it's funny because President Trump actually addressed those issues within the economy. Listen to what the president said in his take.
We've already created nearly 2.6 million jobs since the election, including more than 200,000 new jobs in manufacturing. We love manufacturing. We're bringing back those four magnificent words, made in the USA. In fact, more companies are pursuing pay increases right now than at any time in the last long period of time.
So, David, market volatility aside, you've even got the Atlanta Fed coming out and saying their forecast for GDP for the year, 5.4%. This doesn't take away from that.
No, and when you look at the economy over the last decade has grown at an average of about 1.8% on an annualized basis. When you start talking about GDP growing at 3% or higher, a lot of the public policy issues that are so intransigent and difficult to solve when the economy is growing at 1.7, look a lot easier to solve at 3% or higher. And I do think there is a real rejuvenation of the American economy right now. A couple of factors in that. Meaningful corporate tax reform is the first, but probably even to a greater extent is rationalizing the regulatory structure on business that we've seen really in hyperdrive over the last 8 years. And I think it's a combination of both of those that have the business community really important, really thinking this is an important inflection point.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is. And again, we're looking for that growth and wages and those bonuses we've seen. It's all been good. So we'll see how the markets react today. David Sampson. David, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Cheryl.